I did hunger strike inside detention center. I born like an activist, I raised up like an activist. My name is Sardar and I am from Kashmir, Pakistani occupied side, and I was held in Havasang detention center for almost 2 years. I was a politician in my country and we are struggling for independence and freedom of Kashmir from both occupied nations, from India and from Pakistan. So if I stay there, maybe the military agencies, they could kill me or harm me, and they also issued my arrest warrants. So it was not possible for me to stay there anymore. So because of that reasons, I flee from there. So I walk and cross the border, Pakistan and Afghanistan border, and enter in Afghanistan. And from Afghanistan, I was planning and thinking to go to New Zealand because I had friend there who can help me. And I was at transit at Incheon airport. They arrest me in transit. I was not coming in this country, I was leaving. So after that they take me to detention center. In the beginning they were not willing to give me refugee application file. I told them that I am an asylum seeker and I am running for safety of my life. But they refused and they tried to push me to go back. Because my life was not safe in my country and I was running for safety of my life. So for safety of my life, I used fake travel document. I had no other option. If I could move with my passport or identification document or travel document, why I used that? There was no reason. And according to UN resolutions for refugees and asylum seekers, if you use something for safety of your life, you can use it. It's not a crime. And I was held in prison because of that. One time I was inside there in that isolated room for 5 days, and they put handcuffs on my feet, my hands, and they asked me that, okay, we will open if you will not fight. I said no way, because he abused me and I will not let it go. So they put me in that isolated room, they abused me. My hand still, I have problem in my left hand because I was trying to break that, and my some nerves are got some, you can say, is damaged. So my still this left arm, sometimes it get numb. So I take medicines. Still today I have pain in this arm here. Some people worse than that, because they beat people inside sometimes. I saw that with my own eyes. So that time, that when especially this kind of incident happened, when they take inmate from normal cell to isolated room. During that time they abuse, because they try to put handcuffs on you, people refuse. So they abuse, they try to catch you, and then people get into physical fight. And one guy, maybe 8 or 10 officers, they were holding him from legs, from arms, and all around him. And one officer, he was hitting him. Went in front of my cell towards the isolated room, because where was my room, the isolation cells was in front of that room. So that's what I saw in front of me. With that thing happened with the other guys whom they tried to deport them and they take them to airport, they were also fighting. So those things happen. I think it's normal practice there. I saw that video around 1 month ago. Same experience I had with myself several times, not one time. Exactly same thing. My hands was handcuffed. My legs was also with that cuffs. They tie my legs. Right now maybe little bit change, but after seeing that video, I think it's not changed. It's become worse. Or he was in that bad situation. Even ropes. I never saw ropes there. I was handcuffed. I was tied up my legs, but ropes I didn't saw that. They put the cover on your head, safety, because sometimes people, when they put them in isolated room, they hit their head with walls or doors, or they kick doors, so that's why they do that thing. But with tie up with ropes, I never saw that. So I was shocked when I saw that video. So after 5-6 years, I saw the worst thing, because when I was there was no ropes. But now they use even ropes to tie people. That is more worse. And I can see that how that person went to that Moroccan guy who was in same situation. I see his photo and it reminds me everything. I did hunger strike 3 or 4 times. One time I did hunger strike for 3 days. Why? Because I asked one officer to please send my documents. I have evidences to send my lawyer so that they can help me and prove my case so I can win. But he refused. He was just making excuses and he didn't done that. For that I fight with him. Okay, we verbally fight, and then they put me in Tokbang. There is small room, isolated room. They put me there around 3 days or 4 days. So when they put me there, first time I did hunger strike, I didn't eat 3 days. So I did hunger strike, and after 3 days they released me. They put me back in normal room. So that was the first incident when I did hunger strike. That was my first experience. So second time I make a petition, because inside we were not allowed, as I explained you, that I asked them to fax my documents to lawyer and they refused. They make some excuses and they were not willing to help. I file a petition, I write an application and I give it to officer that we need the clean food. The food they were giving was dirty, it was not clean. For that one day, we was at night time, dinner time, that officer, security guard, he come and he throw dishes, rice and the water soup. That food soup was split on whole that dish. So I told them, what is this? We will not eat. And that whole my room, they all say that, okay, we will not eat. Because I argue with officer, I fight with them, and they put me again in Tokbang, that small room. And I was there for 11 days. And 11 days I didn't eat anything. I did hunger strike. So after 11 days, I write that petition, and then one officer come and he told me verbally that, okay, we will provide these things, but it will take time. I said, no, that's not the way. I give you petition in written, I give you written application, you have to give me written. So they give me written and they said that these things. I make some 8 points, the food, internet, newspaper, English news channel, exercise time, and that behavior. That was almost 8 points I make, and I give them that these 8 things we need. So he give me written and said that, oh, these things are not possible, and then I again write petition. Then maybe they listen that and they change some things. During my whole that time that I spent in detention center, I went in Tokbang maybe 7 to 10 times. Just why? It's not that I was a violent person or I was an abuser. Just I was asking for my rights and my inmates' right. And that's why they were against me. In Hawasang detention center, there is prison beside the detention center. And in prison, some foreigners, they spend their sentence time in prison, and after that they send them in detention center. And they told us that inside prison the food is very good, and they give every day 1 hour for exercise time. So they take them outside and they do exercise. But people who are living in detention center, we just once in a week, they took us out for 30 minutes and they called it exercise time, but actually that was not exercise time. That what they were doing, they were searching rooms and they were searching over body search. and room search. That's why they take us out, just 15 minutes, take out every inmate, and then 15 minutes come, where is exercise? So that's what I also write in petition, that we need. But once you are inside detention center, you think that it was better that if I commit some crime, and I knew after that that okay, I commit this crime and I will get sentenced for this crime 6 years, 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, and after that I will be a free man. But in detention, there is no way to know when your punishment will end. So that's the worst part. There is no hope. And people, they are scared because we are all apply for asylum. Nobody want any dispute with immigration office. So if you are against them, then how you can get some help from them? So that's why people are scared. There are some officers, they are very good, they are very kind, I respect them a lot. But some, you cannot even bear with it. You cannot even handle that, how they treat you. So that's how my time was going through in detention center. Then I thought that that's the only way to protest against them. I am fighting against them doesn't work. So it's better that if maybe I will sacrifice my life here in detention center. So things may be gonna change. So I did hunger strike 57 days. I didn't eat anything. I was just alive on water. My health condition was very bad, very bad. I was not able to open my eyes. I was not able to walk. I was on wheelchair. When I start hunger strike, at that time my weight was 86, around 86, 87. But when they released me and I went to hospital, at that time my weight was around 57. They come, and some officers, they come and they told me that, oh, we know, we understand your situation. You eat something, maybe things will change and we will try to help you. But some officers, they said that, oh, you will die here, nothing will change. So I said, okay, I am willing to die. So then after 45 days, they start negotiating with me, and they told me that okay, we will release you on temporary release. And I told them that I don't need temporary release. Even though if I go outside, my hands are still like handcuffs. I cannot work, I cannot do anything, I cannot go anywhere. So what's the use of that temporary release? It's better that I stay inside. So then my lawyers and some NGOs, they come and they convince me, they talk to me, but I refuse everyone that I will not go anywhere, I will die here. So when my situation and health condition became worse, what they did is, immigration officers behind my back, they apply to that embassy for my travel document. I didn't know that, I didn't apply. Someone signed there for me. Some documents they sign and they apply. So who did that? That's a crime. That how they can apply without my permission. But my lawyer, they got to know somewhere and they informed me. I also contact that embassy and I told them that I never apply. So how you can issue my travel document to them? If you will do, you will also commit crime and you all will be responsible for that. And also my lawyers, they intervene, because everyone knows, some NGOs, they intervene, whom I could contact or they can help me. Then that thing was stopped. Otherwise, it was their first priority to deport me, even in that condition. So then, finally, they make my release. They come and they told that, okay, we give you release. And then lawyers, they convinced me to go out, and your case, we will go through court process and we can win, because I had a lot of evidence, so I can prove myself. So that's how this thing ended. It was impossible. I still there. I still stay there. Some people I know, when I went in detention center, they were there from 3 years or 4 years already. And when I came out, after 3 years, 4 years, I go there and visit some inmates. I try to help them. I know they are still there. Or the one guy, I met him, he just released 6 months ago. And that was also that they try him to deport him. When I was inside, at that time they tried to deport him around 7 to 10 times. They took him to airport, but he was fighting, and then they bring him back. One time I think they took him until Thailand or some other country, but from there the pilot refused and they bring him back. So they beat him, they abused him, that I saw with my eyes. And there was one Moroccan guy, while I was in detention center, he was there and he stayed with me maybe 1 week in same room, we shares room. He was very young guy, around 20 years, 1 year, 2 years old, and they forcefully deport him. And on airport he commits suicide. That what they say, that he eat batteries or the cells, and then he died there at airport. But in my opinion, he was forced to kill himself. Foreigners who are living here, foreigners are Koreans, we all are humans first. After that, we are Koreans, we are foreigners, we are refugees, these are others. So when people will get awareness that everyone who come in this country is not for money. The people who came here, they came here for safety of their life, especially refugees. They have problems in their nations. In Korea, if everything is normal, who want to leave his country? Nobody. Who want to leave his family? Who want to leave his friends, his country, his nation, his motherland? Nobody. So Korean government, they should have to change their policy. They should have to give some safe way. The people who cannot stay in this country, they have to give them some legal frame time. Okay, within 1 year you have to leave this country. You are free within this country. Within 1 year you have to leave. Make your way wherever you can go. That's acceptable. But put them in prison and they don't know. They are there for 10 years, 5 years, 20 years. They will die there. To become a refugee, it's not a crime. But I think to hold refugee in detention, that's a crime. That should be addressed.